Hello, I'm Sarah Poet, checking in with some radical honesty and storytelling for entrepreneurs and anyone out there who wants to do it differently and see different results. So I was really inspired last week after watching a TEDx of Jeffrey Kaplan. He's a venture capitalist here in Asheville, North Carolina. To my knowledge, Jeffrey and I have never met. I'm just being a little bit of a fangirl here since hearing his talk about entrepreneurship, which I've been an entrepreneur full-time for over 4 years now. And I've been working in the spiritual coaching space, the female entrepreneur space, and working with women as they're pivoting from more traditional careers into, a more sacred expression of who they authentically are. And I also work privately one-on-one with couples and do a conscious relating course that I totally made up. So the entrepreneurial spirit was so alive in me. I knew that I didn't fit into the traditional workplace. I had been a school principal. I was very good at it. I loved the children, but I just had this inner desire to, of course, quest for myself. And then there was also this archetypal feminine and masculine that if you know my work at all, I've been talking about that for over 4 years. But it wouldn't leave me alone. It just would not leave me alone. And when I entered the entrepreneurial space, I had so much gumption, as entrepreneurs do, and just so much faith and so much, feeling that you just couldn't get it wrong. And as any entrepreneur knows, that's just not entirely true, because we do experience failure and we do experience major fuck ups. Personally, we experience major self-doubt. And so last week, I had COVID and I was in the fever, and I see everything as opportunity. And so I was deep in the opportunity of the COVID fever and burning it off and just looking at what was not working and how I wanted to move forward as an entrepreneur, and looking at some things that had just been really deep frustrations for me. And then here comes Jeffrey Kaplan's TEDx, hot off the press last week. So he just gave it in Asheville and then it was just released. So go watch the talk because I can't cite the research for you. But in it, he's talking about how, he works with entrepreneurs and he's a venture capitalist. And we know about entrepreneurship that it really requires us to keep getting back up and believe in ourselves and really convince other people that we are good, or that our services are good, or that we're worth investing in. And that personally has driven me crazy. I have really, really struggled with that. I have, I've made a living at this for 4 years, and I've also secured some loan funding. And so, the perpetual, needing to convince other people that you can do this, that you want to do this, it gets old. It gets tiring. And what Jeffrey said in his talk is that when they look at data and survey entrepreneurs, it's actually the area of self-efficacy where entrepreneurs score the lowest. And when I heard this, in my COVID fever, I promise you, I was thank you. I mean, the research shows this. And I was on the phone with my friend Betsy, and I was can you believe this? She's no, because you would think that self-efficacy and your ability to make a difference is exactly why you're an entrepreneur in the first place. And for me, it was. Originally, it was. And then over time, a couple things happened, but I'll focus on two major things. One, my self-efficacy actually plummeted. My belief that I could make a difference plummeted. After 5 seasons of my Sacred Remembering podcast, and after hundreds, literally hundreds of testimonials saying that what I do for people and in people's lives is effective. And I know that, the road that I've walked from traditional workplace into owning all of my gifts as a mystic, as a healer, as well as a really smart woman, I've owned all of those in one place. And I know that what I do is extremely effective. But I can also tell you, and I will say this out loud for anyone else who needs to hear this, that I have never believed less in my own effectiveness as a fourth year, fifth year entrepreneur. Like, never have I believed less. And that was just kind of like, it was taking hold. It was taking hold in a way that I didn't really realize it was taking hold, because the second thing that was happening, and this is the other thing that I really want to pair this with, because, I think a lot of us have the tendency to look at maybe how ineffective we feel and then just go into self-doubt and go into self-blame and judgment and, all those shitty things that we do to ourselves, and then we kind of get buried, okay? So this is why I'm talking about this, so that, we're coming back out with these things rather than getting buried. But the second thing that was happening was that I was questioning everything that the coaching industry had taught me. Everything that I had done by default as like this spiritual entrepreneur, all of the coaches that I invested in the beginning that were well-intended, but really they were just like regurgitating something that somebody else had said to them about, well, you have to invest at this level in order for people to pay you at that level. And, all the like money pyramid scheme stuff. And the more I interacted with, the people in my business, a couple of things were becoming really, really clear. We were doing really authentic, deep, transformational soul work. There's not one person who steps into my containers that does not have an actual transformative experience if they want to. But the other thing is, I work in the space of healing feminine and masculine archetypal misunderstandings, gender rifts, traumas related to gender, etc. And we have a lot of, cultural wounding around this and money wounding around this, myself included. And so in the spaces that I was creating, it did not feel good to me to say to the women who were attracted to my work that they should be able to pay, what I hear called a high ticket sale. And I had gotten myself into an experience where I had paid over 10 grand for private coaching, and it turned out to be rather heartless. And this was a time in 2021 where I was actually awakening to my heart so big. And I was questioning everything about how I did want to serve, what I wanted my business model to look like, how I wanted people to feel when they came into my container. Because after I had paid over 10 grand for coaching, I felt really like there was this non-relational, it was really gross what happened in that container. And I thought, I never want my people to feel like this. And so I just really eased up. I eased up on things like marketing. I eased up on putting myself in front of the camera. I eased up on, the feeling of like, you always have to be on social media, convincing people of what you know. And I really got tired of it. And I was in a really, really deep search, honestly, for the integrity that I had for my own process, like how I wanted to show up in my own process and in my own business. And as a result, sales, went down because I wasn't doing a lot of outreach. And so I was kind of shooting myself in the foot. And then that kind of, spiraled and looped back to the first thing I was talking about was the self-efficacy and really not feeling like I was being effective because things were less viable. And even I was less viable. So what happened was that, I got really sick with this big fever last week and just got to go deep and really look at viability and life force and really a newfound and very deep respect for the brand that I have created, but more so than brand, I don't really like that so much as body of work. And everything I did was always guided by, my internal compass, I would say spirit, and my life path. And that is, what I teach. And because I've already been so vulnerable, I'll just go a little bit further if you're still watching. To talk about soul entrepreneurship, because that's what I'm doing, and that's really who I'm talking to here probably is people who know that there's a different way, a better way, that you have something to really offer into the world, and that we're kind of inventing that. We are inventing that. We're not just selling something to sell something. We're not just selling a product. Now, I'm not comparing, I'm not judging. I'm just saying, like, on this path, this soul entrepreneur path, when there is, anything inside of our own psyche or our own, emotionality, spirituality that still needs to be worked out and worked through, it's actually imperative to our business that we do that we show up for that, and that we have obviously we need to have a really solid sense of who we are if we're holding space for other people. But I think, like, this is why I'm sharing today, this willingness to say it gets messy and we don't have to have it all together, but we are responsible for our own inner alchemy, our own integration, and showing up in deep integrity. And that can get messy, and there can just be there will be, in fact, that's my point, is there will be the mucky unresolved shit that you have to actually be with in order to be the gift that you came to be. And I just had to go through that last week, actually even before the realization about the self-efficacy and before the COVID. I was at my adopted daughter's college graduation. And so this is the daughter that I carried but didn't get to raise. She was adopted at age 19 and adopted into an open adoption. I've always gotten to know her, and I'm her birth mom, which is just so cool. But I went to see her, and in the car on the way back, I was hit by the very, very, very familiar and shitty as fuck emotion of not being able to take care of her, not being able to raise her. And, even though this trigger, this emotion is nearly 22 years old, it's, and even though I've dealt with it, so many times, every time I've driven away from seeing her, it hit me like a ton of bricks on the way home. And my son was in the back seat, and he's 13, and he's very emotionally aware, and he knows that, he knows adoption brings up some shit for the mom. So I said, I'm going to pull the car over and I'm going to feel what I'm feeling right now. And I was really transparent about it and really let myself have that experience. And actually, I just talked to him about it last night. So we're still, we process it so that the emotions aren't scary. But, all that to say that I was, really looking at and met this deep feeling that I identified as powerlessness that lived so deep in me, and really is such a core wound inside of me. And then you can see that as the week progressed and unfolded, that there was this realization about the doubts regarding self-efficacy and the impact that I could potentially have. And so you see that on this soul entrepreneurial path, we do have to meet our own core wounding, our own stories, our own blocks. And, you know, would I have known, without going into that situation around the graduation, would I have known that that was impacting my, you know, my behavior as a businesswoman? Like, would I have consciously known that directly? Not really, you know, but it's because I'm paying attention and because I'm looking at like what got triggered. And so that was a really big trigger. And then I immediately got COVID because I was in this, you know, big auditorium for this graduation. And I was like, okay, here's this fever, here's this opportunity to really like take off the layers of what wasn't working. And so thank you for watching this. This is to say that throughout that entire experience and some, you know, other very rich material happening in my life right now as well, I can say that I feel a very renewed sense of efficacy and wanting to show up, and the willingness to show up, and the willingness to stand in the purpose that my soul realized many years ago, and that's why I took this leap. And so, yeah, rediscovering my deep why and my deep willingness, and the willingness to put my face and my voice back on the internet after a period of time being rather disgruntled about it. So I look forward to hearing, seeing you, meeting you more so at this point and beyond. The Sacred Remembering podcast has 5 seasons if you want to learn more about becoming whole and sovereign and walking that sacred feminine, sacred masculine path back to that wholeness. Also talking a lot these days about female entrepreneurship and masculine feminine leadership. Okay, I'm going to be talking about this all over LinkedIn and some live guest experiences too. Feminine masculine leadership, and I really want us to go beyond just a gender conversation. I think we're kind of stuck in the workplace and otherwise on the gender conversation where it's really not about gender. And I can help you go way beyond this and be, you know, way more effective in your leadership teams. So you can find all of that and more at sarahpoet.com. I invite you to reach out to me, connect with me, and please do that through sarahpoet.com rather than all the various platforms where this video might be, so that we can talk more directly. And yeah, I am here to follow this path and to support those who are in resonance. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope this finds you absolutely well. And if you have been experiencing self-doubt or a lack of self-efficacy, just remember that it is totally par for the course. And my work is really, you know, helping you stand in the truth of who you are. So I got to live it too, right? So standing in the truth of who we are, and it is through that sovereign truth and the alignment of that sovereign truth that we actually are the most effective. It's exactly why we're here. It's exactly what we're meant to bring into the world. So it is my pleasure to support you in doing that. Thank you for watching, and let's stay connected. I'll see you at sarahpoet.com. Bye.